Hey, I'm Allison here, and welcome to Little Left of Center, the podcast that interviews culture changers that are reshaping our world and breaking new ground. Welcome to the Little Left of Center Christmas Eve 2019 Solocast. This is my second Solocast ever. So I'm actually on a brand new microphone. I've been hearing really good things about the Audio-Technica AT2020 USB mic. So I got it. I'm trying it out. This could sound like a complete piece of shit. And if so, bear with me. I will either figure it out or I will send it back. But just trying out new things as you guys, if you've been listening to me, you'll know that I have a podcast program called Press Play Podcast, and it is a one-stop shop for new podcasters to do everything from concept all the way to launch and beyond. And I want to make sure that I've really got my homework done so that way I can give the very best advice and guidance. So I'm playing around with this. I hope it sounds good. And if it doesn't, it will sound better next week for sure. So thank you so much for listening. And I have to say, thank you so much for listening. So I wanted to do a little bit of a year in review. It's been an unbelievable year, 2019. And, I had a lot of goals coming into 2019, but not really entirely sure of how I would get there. And I think it was either January or February of this year, I saw an invitation for a podcast program similar to the one that I am launching. And so I decided, let me sign up for that. I have no idea what I'm doing or what my concept will be, but let me just say yes to it. I wanted to use this time to share 5 things I've learned this year. And some of it is really kind of revealing about me and my background and my family and some of the things that have gone on this year and some of the lessons learned. I've kind of gone at full tilt this year, which is kind of where I love to be. But yeah, so I started this podcast program. I had zero idea what my concept was going to be. And I'm one of those people where, sometimes I wish that I was really good at art or was a really great singer or something that was so obvious. But that's not how my world works. And I feel like this is probably a common thing, but I am incredibly multi-passionate. So the first thing that I've learned this year is podcasting. I started and I had this idea that I was just going to say yes to this program and see where it took me. And I didn't have any specific goals other than let me just keep saying yes. And if I do more of what I love, and what I love is to interview people, what I love is to share ideas, what I love is to learn about new perspectives and progressive things that are happening in our world. I love innovation. And if I keep doing more of what I love and meet who I meet, who knows? And I thought this was kind of been how I operated this entire year, and I've really looked at the podcast. So I've kind of pulled back away from the numbers of, okay, I need to get to this many downloads. I just wanted to be in the space of just creating. So I learned how to podcast. And in May of this year, I believe it was May 15th or May 14th, I launched my very first podcast episode. So it took a few months to kind of get up and running and build the back end and understand about interviewing and equipment and editing software. And of course, the concept and figuring out how do I move this idea forward and take somebody like me who is super multi-passionate, where I didn't want to necessarily hang my hat on one idea, even though I felt so passionate about it. I wanted to kind of keep it in a way where I could still stay interested, but still move the needle on these few things that I'm really passionate about and introduce people that are doing incredible things in those fields. So that's kind of been where I've been. So Little Left of Center launched in May. It is a weekly podcast. It's an interview podcast. So I interview culture changers. That topic has taken, oh my goodness, I probably had 24 different titles and ideas and concepts before I landed on that one, but it seems to fit really, really well. I love people that are challenging the status quo and are groundbreakers and people that are disruptors. And I work full-time for Salesforce. I'm in a technology sales position, and I've been there for 3 years, and all we do as a corporation is innovate. So it made a lot of sense to kind of continue that discussion from my own personal interests. And what's happened since I launched the podcast is a man named Mike Johnson. He runs a radio group called Decatur FM, or an entity. It's an innovative, hyper-local radio station that is digital. And he somehow found my podcast really early on through social media and started listening. And he thought, this girl is onto something. And so he asked me to rebroadcast my episodes on his station. So they are. So every morning at 9 a.m. and I believe at 8 p.m., he airs my episodes. So it's been really exciting to kind of get another avenue of distribution and another avenue of listeners, of people that could be interested in the people I'm sharing and the conversations and ideas and perspectives that I'm sharing through the podcast. And I also was able, my episodes are also on Salesforce Radio. So Salesforce has 45,000 employees, so it's available to all employees. So it's kind of cool to have that support from my company and be able to have my passion and be able to pursue that, but still kick butt at work too. So the podcasting has been incredible. And this past November, I met with somebody and was like, what can I do with this podcast? What can I do with these ideas where I can really amplify? I feel like I cannot get these ideas out fast enough and, be able to share these. But what I really, really wanted from this podcast was for the listener to be so inspired that they wanted to not only share with their friends, but they wanted to contribute and felt like, wow, I didn't realize that and I can help. And so at the end of every episode, I always ask, how can people contribute to your mission? And so my goal was, how do I activate the listeners? And so I was meeting with the business coach and we talked through it. And she's like, Allison, you need to amplify other people's voices. You need to teach podcasting and allow people to have their own voice. So since then, I have started Press Play Podcast. So it's a program, like I mentioned, where other people where I help them in a collaborative environment, kind of go from concept to launch and really elevate their voices, their ideas, and be able to maybe get some of the same fulfillment that I've gotten. I think that the podcast itself in Little Left of Center has flipped on every single light in my body, where I've been so grateful that I feel like I've been seeking for so many years, probably 6 or 7 years, to find, where should I be? How can I contribute? How can I make an impact? How can I use my talents in a way that are going to make a difference and be fulfilling as well, and not take away from the other things that are going on. So the podcast has been perfect for that. So number 2, 5 things I've learned this year. So the first thing is podcasting. The second thing is build your life resume. So if you've been listening to my podcast for a little while, you may have heard me talk about this program called Build Your Life Resume. So it is by Jesse Itzler. Jesse Itzler is a serial entrepreneur. He was the founder of Zico Water. He sold it to Coca-Cola. He was the co-founder of Marquis Jets and sold it to Warren Buffett. I think now it's called NetJets. And he's a rapper. He happens to be married to Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. And he's got this very unconventional way and offering. And he started this program called Build Your Life Resume. And the concept is that you, instead of putting the next work experience on your resume, what if you went out of your comfort zone and did things beyond what you would have normally done? And that if you continue pushing yourself, whether it's physically, mentally, doing things that are really, really hard, then all the rest of the work resume stuff comes, but you have more fulfillment. So it has 3 components. So one is that every month you introduce a new habit that you do every day for 30 or so days. So for me, and it could be something simple, like the first one was, for me, mine was making my bed every day. So now I make my bed, my kids make their beds, and it really helps. It's made a huge difference. Or in the next month might be not being on my phone around the kids and just being more present. And the next month was Give It Forward, which is like hashtag Give It Forward, where I would pick somebody that I knew and reach out to them and say, hey, what can I help you with? No strings attached. And just offer help, whether it was resources or a connection or whatever. And that made a huge impact too. Or it might be something as simple as drinking water. So in January, I'm going to go plant-based and see how that feels. So one is introduce a new habit every month. The second thing is something called the Kevin's Rule. Kevin's Rule is where every 8 weeks, you do something that is super experiential. So it does not have to cost a lot of money. So it might be going to hiking, or it might be camping in your backyard. It might be going to an open field and stargazing. So I just recently took my kids to the Polar Express. It was like a 4.5-hour drive from here to take a 75-minute train ride and get hot chocolate and, go to the North Pole and see Santa. And that was what we had just done. So there are a lot of exciting things that you can do, but things that you can really remember. And from a family perspective, there are things that you can't really put a price on. So things that are just amazing like that. And the last thing is called a misogi. And a misogi is doing something so incredibly hard once a year. So maybe it is a Tough Mudder. Maybe it is something insane. That if you do this once a year, you just say, yes, let me just throw my hat over the wall and figure it out. And just say, I can do it. What could happen? That high or that rush will last you for a whole year. So I'm about to pull the trigger on this. It's actually a wait list, but in June, I think I'm going to do, it's called 29029. It's 2,209 feet, I think, is the height of Mount Everest, where I'm going to scale a mountain enough times to equal Mount Everest. So there's one in Sun Valley, Idaho. Oh my God, I'm so bad at geography. So yeah, I think I'm going to do that. So how exciting is that? And what can we do? So I thought the Build Your Life resume has really been taking the lid off of what I think could be possible and really helping me with my own confidence of what else can I accomplish? What can I do? Whether it is physically or not, I think it gives me a ton of confidence to say yes to things that I may have talked myself out of before because I didn't think I might be capable. But here I'm just saying yes and work myself backwards from it. So that's number 2, Build Your Life resume. Number 3 is called Family Interrupted. So this year has been really wild for my family. My mother is 70, she's 77. I think she's 77 right now. And she was diagnosed with lung cancer earlier this year. And I think it was a small nodule. And my mother is the mother of 6 children. I'm one of 7 children. My father is a daughter from a previous marriage. So together we have 7. But my mom and dad had 6 kids together. My mother, she is a tough fighter. And thankfully, the cancer was small, and they took an entire lobe of her lung out. And they think they got it all out. Apparently, it's out for now. And she's healing and recovering. But this poor woman has problems breathing to begin with. She has asthma. She's got all kinds of chronic breathing issues. So it's been kind of crazy watching her just fight so hard to just breathe and feel better and be able to move easier and to enjoy, like she doesn't go outside a lot because the allergies irritate her so much. So it's been a lot to not look after her, but just to watch her through this journey and be there as a family, with my brothers and sisters and my kids and their kids and all of us supporting her. My father just turned 91, and my father is hilarious because he is 91 years old. This is going to sound crazy and this is totally personal, but he is so ready to just kick the bucket. And he's not a grumpy, curmudgeon. He just is done. Where, anytime he gets a cold, it's like, hey, if this is my time, I'm good. Don't worry about resuscitating me. I'm good. And he told us this year, don't give me any presents for my birthday. You can't take it with you, and it's really weird to watch him because he is overall fairly healthy. I mean, certainly he, has trouble getting around as easily as he did. But his memory for the most part is there. I mean, sometimes it slides, but it's been really interesting. I always say when he says those comments, I'm like, Dad, you're going to be so bummed out when you're 92 and 93 and these years just keep ticking by. And I'll ask him, what do you want to do this year? And he's like, nothing. I don't know if anybody feels like that or has parents that have been in situations like that, but it's just kind of weird to watch. And I think the other part that I've learned this year is that work-life balance is BS. It is straight bullshit. I try not to put too much pressure on me. I believe that there are seasons where you focus really, really hard on your family. And other seasons where you focus really, really hard at work. And maybe the family isn't you're not as attentive to it. It's something that I struggle with all the time, and then I have this podcast. So the podcast is interesting that if you listen to me, so you may know that I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And I get some work done there. So I might be working on the podcast or the blog or working out or getting shower, hair and makeup, get ready for work. But really the podcast is done in stolen hours. So it might be an hour here after work or an hour on a Saturday to kind of edit it. I would say that the podcast itself, recording and editing, is probably the least amount of time that I spend. Most of the time is really on the engagement side of things. So the social media and branding and figuring out all the back end stuff is really where the bulk of the time is. But I've been able to figure out the podcast, but the rest of it is something that takes a lot of attention. And I have to kind of juggle that. I'm in a time right now where it's a lot and I'm not as present as I would like to be or probably should be with my family. And I'm figuring that part out too. Work is the busiest months for me at work is December and January because it's the end of our fiscal year. So it's just an intense time. And I'm grateful for my boxing workouts in the morning so I can get some aggression out. And get some of that energy out and tension, not aggression, but tension out. So it's been interesting. If you guys have any hacks, please let me know. My email is allison@littleleftofcenter.co. And let me know if you've got any feedback or or hacks on that. But I don't believe in work-life balance. And, my husband and I really talk through, hey, it's just going to be kind of a crazy season and we figure out how it'll work. And then we'll kind of go back into the family side of things. And then that brings me to the fourth thing. And the fourth thing is just keep creating. And one of the things, I know I touched on this before, that a lot of time that I spend is based on the engagement of listenership and downloads and social media and posts and figuring out things that are going to be engaging and are going to be interesting. And what I found with that is there are so many times where I get so caught up in the numbers where I feel like I've got a home run of an episode and there aren't as many downloads. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so part of the reason why I do pull back sometimes from worrying about the numbers, and then sometimes there are some that are, I think almost every single one of my episodes, my interviewees have just knocked it out of the park. My guests are awesome and they're so fascinating. But sometimes I just feel like I do get caught up in the numbers and have to kind of pull back. And so a mantra that I've been saying to myself this entire year is just keep creating, just keep creating, just create. So what I do in the morning is I wake up and before I look at any screen, I will follow my breath for 10 breaths. I will get up and go in the bathroom while my husband's still asleep, and I'll stretch for a few minutes. So I might be doing squats or, just stretching my body, just moving my body for a few minutes, and then I'll write in a journal. And that's before I look at any screen. So I'm in the habit of just creating a little bit. And then I have a blog that I've been writing entries and will eventually be launched as a blog called Little F Letter, which probably will come out right after the first of the year. So you can subscribe to that too. So just keep creating. What I find is I'm one of those people that if I start creating, the ideas come. So the ideas don't come and then I write them down and create it. I just start writing and then all of a sudden it starts writing itself. So it's kind of like the momentum that's built from just using that creative access to your brain. And I always think of it as like, a car, once you turn it over, it's kind of cold and it might sputter a little bit, but then it starts to regenerate itself and keeps going and starts building on its own battery. And that's kind of how I feel about the creation aspect of it. More on that, my one goal for 2020 is to do a TED Talk. And part of it will be on that awaken your creative native kind of vein. So I'm working on that now, working on a title. I've got the speech and the idea, but working on a really clever title, one that's going to be clickable. It's kind of crazy once I started to dive into the TED Talk world and how particular it is that it's got to be a really innovative idea and it has to have an incredible title and one where they want the TEDx organizers, these independent organizers want these ideas to go viral. And so it has to be something that people are willing to click on and take 10 minutes of their time to really look through. So number 1 is podcasting. Number 2 is build your life resume. 3 is family interrupted. 4 is just keep creating. And the 5th is time is ticking louder. And one of the quotes that I came across this year that really, really stopped me dead in my track is you are always one decision away from a totally different life. And I turned 45 this year, and theoretically, I hate that I am getting older, and I hate that there's a line item in my budget for hair and fillers and Botox and, kind of keeping up with everything, hair cuts and dyes and whatever. I color my hair every 4 weeks, but it's part of life. But at the same time, I feel like I'm just beginning. I feel like I've got all of my faculties. My body doesn't hurt. I feel good. I feel like I'm pushing myself harder than I ever have. And I feel like I can only be grateful for being in this space of creativity and forcefully putting myself in that just keep creating bucket, because that to me is the key to happiness and joy. But I do feel like time is ticking louder and louder. And so the beauty of that, of realizing that you certainly do have a limited time left, is that the decisions you make are quicker and they're more profound. So I don't generally tend to talk myself out of a lot of things. If I commit, I commit. I love that this season of my life is unfolding in a way that there are so many new possibilities. So that is what's going on with me. That's not the 5 things that I've learned this year. I have a lot going on in 2020, and I think I've got some incredible guests and exciting things that are coming up in terms of engagement and how to stay connected with my audience. I'm thankful for everyone who has listened. I'm even more thankful for those that have shared these ideas and these episodes and have introduced people to me. I'm thankful for the support from my family and friends that even if they've never listened, they support me and my crazy ideas of just saying yes and just putting myself out there all the time. I'm grateful for the people that I've met that are doing incredible things. I'm sure we all feel this way, but I always wished that I would come up with that brilliant idea that would change the world. And instead, I'm in a position where I'm introducing all of these other brilliant people that have come up with these ideas and sharing that with you. And what I feel is that culture changing is a movement. And it's a movement once you share it and starts to snowball and build momentum. And so I believe that the more you say yes, the more momentum builds with it. So with that, today is Christmas Eve. If you're listening on the Tuesday that this is released, I wish you Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. I wish you happy day 3, I think, night 3 of Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. If you celebrate nothing, I wish you joy in the new year, in the new decade. I think also if, again, I have to plug Press Play Podcast. If you are somebody who's thinking about getting your own podcast, I would highly recommend going to bit.ly/Press Play Podcast and say yes to my program. We would love to have you. We've got an incredible group of inventive, exciting, brave people that have such cool ideas that I'm excited to be a part of, or at least be helping lift them. With that, I thank you for listening. I hope you stay with me in the future. I hope you have a very happy new year and a happy new decade. There's so much to be excited about, and I'm thankful for you. Signing off. See you next week. Thanks for listening.